Welcome to Transplants, a podcast featuring conversations with women thriving in new roots abroad. I'm your host, Laura Perucci, a Brazilian journalist calling NYC home for over a decade. Each episode, we unpack the transitions, culture shocks, setbacks, and joys of starting a new life in another country, so you can learn from their insights and make your own bold move. Because I truly believe real stories are the strongest way to spark real growth. Hi, and welcome back. My guest today is Nina Cretan, or Soldana as she prefers to be called, which is her artist's name. Yes, my guest today is an artist. She's a singer, songwriter, content creator, and writer based in Paris, France. Nina comes from an immigrant family. Her grandmother immigrated from the Philippines to the United States, so she was raised between the American and the Philippine culture. And you may be wondering how she ended up in Paris. Well, the reason why she moved to Paris was work-related. Her corporate job eventually offered her the opportunity to move to Paris. But we all know that life happens, right? So she met a French guy and she got married. And the artist part, she got reconnected with her creative side while living in Paris. You have to listen to the full conversation, which is such a nice one. We talked about being raised as a multicultural kid, the move to Paris, her relationship, her values, and of course, her career in a creative field. So let's hear Nina's transplant story. Hi, Nina. Thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show. You're just about to drink water.
Hi, Laura. Thank you so much for having me.
So you're half Filipina, half American. And I know that your mom moved to the United States when she was a kid and she met your dad. You were born in California. How would you describe your childhood? And how was your life different from other American kids? Like you're like being raised by a Filipino mother, and I know that you're very close to your grandparents as well.
Yeah, I'm impressed you did your research.
I have to, girl.
Yeah, of course. So what was different about my childhood is I think I grew up in a really quintessential American suburb in the San Francisco Bay Area. And where I went to school, when I went to high school, all of my peers, their parents went to the same high school as us. Their grandparents went to the same high school as us. Their grandparents' grandparents went to the same high school. And so as someone with a parent who was an immigrant, I think you already just feel like an outsider because you don't relate to anyone else on that level. And on top of that, it was predominantly white, a lot of Hispanic, specifically Mexican, but mostly white. And so not only was I an outsider, but I was a little bit different looking too. And I really liked my experience. I feel like I got the stereotypical American upbringing, the sports included in the school system, the lots of extracurricular activities. Being in California, which is the capital of entertainment, me and my brother did acting and modeling growing up. We were very much in the show business industry. Yeah, so we had a lot of differences that set us apart from our schoolmates.
And did you ever feel in between, in a between place growing up, not fully seen as American or as Filipino? And how did that land for you emotionally? Because I've always seen multicultural kids saying that they are not totally seen as natives in any of their countries. I heard a lot of Indians saying that in America, they're not seen as Americans, and they go to India and they're not Indian at all.
Yeah.
So how was that for you?
For sure. I think it's the case for anyone who's mixed culture or biracial, especially biracial when it's a bit of more of an obvious, on the outside too, is that you do tend to get rejected from both, but also accepted from both. You can almost fit in. For me, I almost fit into the Filipino culture, and I almost fit into white American culture. But at the same time, If I'm with a group of like all Filipinos, it's like, oh, like you don't count. But you're like American. You're like whitewashed. Like you're like this. And then at the same time, if I'm like with only white Americans, it's like, oh, but like, well, they're less likely to say something about race.
Yeah.
But I can tell that like I'm not seen exactly the same as like everyone else too. So it's like this weird 1 foot in, 1 foot out situation for like both sides.
I know that you mentioned this in another interview at some point when you were a kid, and I can totally understand that you didn't like the fact that you were Filipino.
Yeah, I think it's common. Maybe it's less so now. I hope that like kids these days feel it less. But like I said, I grew up in a town where like everyone's grandparents have grown up there. And so like a lot of people were white, and I felt like I wasn't pretty because I wasn't. Because like all of like the really popular girls at school were like all blonde hair, blue eyes. I don't look like that. So like it sucks that I look like this.
It can be really hard when you're a kid.
Yeah. So, and there weren't a lot of Filipinos where I grew up either. So like the only Filipinos I really knew were kind of my family.
I'm curious, like, how do you see that is, because it kind of annoys me that they like to put people in boxes. Like, I hate when I go to a place that I have to fill paperwork. In the beginning, I was like, what should I put here? Like, am I white? Like in Brazil, I'm white, like the color, you know? And here I'm not. But then Brazilians have an issue with the Latino word because we don't speak Spanish, but that is Hispanic. You know what I mean? It's like you have to know all these labels.
Yeah.
But they do that here. You hear a lot of comments about like the Latino community, a lot of issues with the immigration, the way that people see these people. How do you see that is this situation with the Asian community? Do you think it's more subtle?
Putting people into boxes? No, I mean, like, I don't know if it's more subtle. I think like what it really annoys me when people try. Like, I don't mind putting myself into a box, I guess, but I hate when other people try to define me. It's like, why are you entitled to an opinion on what I see myself as? Like, I don't like when people try to like put me in their box. I'm fine putting myself into my own boxes. I just don't appreciate when other people do it. And I guess maybe I haven't really thought about it from like the point of view of specifically Asian people. I think it's just like broadly that's what I've experienced from any race, especially as someone who's like an online social media presence. People like feel like they have a right to define you. That they have the right to an opinion on you. I come face to face with that a lot of like total strangers being like, oh, you're not Asian, or like, oh, you're not white, like you're not this, you're not that. Yeah, I don't know if I answered your question properly.
Yeah,
for that one.
that's okay. And also like you are now an American living in France, and back in the US you were this Filipino American girl. Would you say that the space that you used to occupy in the United States is the same that you occupy now in France? Like this place of being a little bit of an outsider or in between? Or you see as a different experience?
I think, okay, I have a lot of takes on this. I think that like the US is a bit more accepting of claiming multiple backgrounds. Like I think in the US, it's pretty normalized that you can be American and something else. Like you have like the right to say like, oh, I'm an American Brazilian, or I'm an American like Filipino. Like you're allowed to do that. Where in France, anyone who lives here, regardless of where you came from, as soon as you've been like established here for a long time, they like to say like you're French. Like they don't like to, like even if your parents are immigrants, if you were born here and you've been living here, it's less common to claim your cultural heritage. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like
yes.
for example, there was like the man who like saved. This is such a random example. There was a man who was from some African country, and he like saved like a kid from a window recently, and he got this award from Macron, who's the president.
I saw
here.
that video.
And then people were fighting on social media being like, oh, like it's thanks to whatever country he was from. And then there were French people being like, no, he's French. Like it's thanks to this French man. And like, I feel like in the US, you're allowed to be like, oh, no, he's both French and whatever country he was from. Where in France, it's like, no, he's only French now.
And do you think that's good or bad?
I don't know if it's like binary like that, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's like what I like about France is they do feel very like patriotic and strong about like their sense of identity being like French. But I think it's not a bad thing either to be more like flexible and open. Because one thing that annoyed me is like when I first moved here, I had a lot of French people try to tell me that I wasn't Filipino. They're like, you're so American, like you're so this. And it's like, well, like, why? Just because I grew up there? Like, I don't know. I think in their minds, it's harder to, it's already hard in the US to be like multicultural, but I feel like here it's even less accepted.
Okay. But do you feel that you are like in the same position that you were in the US, in this in-between place, or you feel different?
I feel different because the one community that I am a part of here, and it's a very strong community, is the international community. Like, I think like French are very closed off to non-French people. So like, I'm never going to be fully embraced by, except for my husband, I'm never going to be fully embraced by like a French friend group. But I was very like easily welcomed into the international community in Paris, which is like very tight-knit. And it's not just Americans. Like, I would say more than half of my friends are Latina, actually. Not North Americans or US Americans, but like broad Americas or a lot of different countries. And so because everyone is so different, I think like the differences kind of unite us and you just feel like you belong, at least because you share that commonality.
I read in this interview, you mentioned, I felt like there was always a part of me that wished that I wasn't Filipino. Then you get older, and with hindsight, you start to appreciate all the beautiful things that come with it. What are the beautiful things you've come to appreciate about being part of an immigrant family?
The drive and determination from both my mom and my grandma. So it was kind of my grandma's idea to move to the US. My mom was a kid, so it wasn't really her choice. But I see a lot of the same traits in her. And my grandma actually kidnapped the youngest. My grandpa didn't want her to move. Like, he was very comfortable in his life in the Philippines. And so they had 3 kids at this point, and he really wanted to stay in the Philippines because like it's common if you have like a little bit of money, you can have like help in the house. Like, you could live a very nice lifestyle. But my grandma was like, oh no, I really want my kids to have like better than this. Like, I want my kids to like have better opportunities than what they can get here. And so she took the youngest kid, which is my aunt, and she moved to the US without telling my grandpa. And she was there for 2 years earning money to like sponsor the rest of her family to come join her. And so I think that's a very daring thing to do, but it comes from a place where she was like really ambitious and driven to see her kids have better opportunities. And they did, for sure. Like, for sure, my mom and her siblings have a better life in the US than they would have in the Philippines in terms of like their careers and like what they were able to accomplish by themselves. And so I think coming from like that courage, like of like not being afraid to do the scary thing, to take the leap, to take the step, is something that's common in a lot of like immigrant families.
So let's get to your experiences abroad. I was watching one of your videos, and it actually sounded to me that you're kind of like manifesting this move to Paris if you look to your past.
Did I?
I think so. Because it was very interesting hearing you talking about your study abroad experience, and which was in Spain, right?
Yeah. How did you know that? Wait, which video did I talk about that? I'm so impressed.
Thank you. Ask me anything.
Ask me anything.
I think, it was questions from Instagram. And then you're answering.
Interesting.
That was very funny video too. You're very funny. I love your energy. I don't know if you realize that, but you went to Spain to study Spanish, and then your mom went there, and then you guys went to Paris. And then you were like, oh my God, next time it has to be Paris. And then you went to Paris to study French. And then, well, I'm not going to give any spoilers, but I know the first language you studied was Spanish. So tell us how that was, and how was your experience living in Spain for a short period of time. And you're very young.
I was really young. And so I had a very authentic experience because I was only 15. So I went to a normal Spanish high school in a tiny city. Like, it was not like Madrid.
City?
It's Zaragoza.
Okay.
It's between Madrid and Barcelona, but it's not, and sure it qualifies as a city, but I mean a tiny city.
Okay.
And it wasn't as metropolitan as like Barcelona or Madrid. And so when I went to school at this normal Spanish high school, nobody spoke English. And I think the majority had never even like met an American before, for sure.
Okay.
Like it was very weird for me as like a 15-year-old.
Especially like before social media, right?
Yeah. Oh my God. Facebook existed, but like you didn't really share your whole life. Like you would make a photo album and share like some little snippets of it, but it wasn't like I'm going to vlog my journey in Spain. So I went there knowing very little. And I think it's funny because 15 is an age where you really want to fit in. Like you really care about like what everyone else around you thinks about you. And you want to do the most to not stand out. Like you want to dress like everybody around you. You want to talk like everyone around you. You want to listen to the same music. And so I think as a 15-year-old going to Spain, it hit me for the first time that like it gave me a new perspective in the sense that like I was taught to see the world in one way. And when I moved to Spain, I realized everything that I thought was cool in the US is not what they thought was cool. So like I had to relearn this whole new way of like life to like try to fit in there too. And I think it was like I remember I got laughed at for like the gym clothes that I wore because I wore very like American gym clothes and like in gym class in Spain, they did not wear the same thing. Like it was just different styles. So like I think it was it was like a very abrupt thrown into a new culture and trying to like learn how to adapt.
What do you think that has influenced you the most to live abroad, to have this desire? Was your study abroad experience, or like the fact that you grew up in an immigrant family and like your grandma's story, or everything together?
I think it's for sure a combination. Like we are like all of our life experiences combined. It's not like one specific thing that I can attribute it to. Yeah, I think it's just a mix of all of that.
Let's talk about Paris. How did this move happen? Like, tell us everything. I know that you moved during the pandemic. I know that you applied for a job in New York and you saw that they have like the base, that the company was actually based in France. And you thought, okay. But if you want to also like mention the time that you studied in France as well, because you also study French, right?
Yeah. So I did a study abroad in Paris, and it was different from my study abroad in Spain because Paris is a very diverse city. It is super metropolitan. And so like, I think I found an easier time adjusting to it very quickly. When my 6-month semester was up, I was really sad to leave. Like I was like, oh, I could totally see myself living here.
And how old are you?
21. I turned 21 like halfway through. So I knew that I wanted to be in a big city because I went to school in San Diego, which isn't a super big city. And also Californians are very sheltered. Like Californians love to stay in California because they think it's like God's gift to earth. Like they think it's the best place in the world, which yeah, it's a great place. But I think like a lot of people growing up end up staying. Like you might move between LA and SF, but you're never really going to leave. Oh, I lost my train of thought. What was the question again?
About the time you spent in Paris and then how you ended up applying for this job in New York.
And so I met a friend, like a really good friend, while I was studying in Paris who went to school in New York. And the more time I spent with her, the more I was like, wow, I love her like bigger city lifestyle, her like more fast paced, more like diverse, more cultured, more everything. I kind of knew that when I graduated, I wanted my first job to be in New York because that was like the closest thing to a big metropolitan city I could find in the US. So I only looked at jobs in New York. And when I saw one for this consulting agency, I saw that they were originally French, and I was like, yeah, like what you just said. It would be really cool if like one day maybe I could start in New York, and then maybe one day they'll transfer me to Paris, and that's exactly what ended up happening.
You're manifesting, I told you.
I did, I guess.
So the move from California to New York was a big move for you.
Yeah, I think East Coast and West Coast have different mentalities for sure, too. Everywhere it does, I guess. But like, I guess East Coast is more direct, and California is very much like the bubbly, putting up face all the time.
I was actually going to ask you about the move to Paris, but I want to talk about your job because I know that you're a very creative person, and I want to talk about that after. But you are now like pursuing this career in a creative field, writer, content creation, musician. You sing, you write songs.
Yeah.
And
Everything.
and then I went to your LinkedIn, and like, why are you working with data? I don't understand.
Yes, a good question. So I think I always knew I was creative. Like there was never a doubt in my, since like I was really, really little, I loved to write songs. I loved to like write stories. I made YouTube videos before I was even like a teenager. Like I would be making like parodies and stuff and posting it on YouTube. And so I always knew I loved to like create things in any format, both like music and storytelling. And I think partially coming from like the immigrant background, especially Asian background, people push you for like the security, like the security of like what is guaranteed to help you do well in life and succeed in life. And also I was the oldest out of all of my cousins. And so like, I guess I suffered from like an eldest daughter syndrome, but even larger scale because like Filipino families are really close. All my cousins grew up living not far, like not more than 20-minute drives from my house. And so I felt as the oldest who like watched all of my younger cousins be born and like helped raise them and like watched them grow up. I felt like a really big pressure that I had to be like a very well-behaved, good older cousin / sibling to all of them. And to me, that definition was going to get like a degree and working in an area that was definitely going to like pay well and be secure and not risk me being like a failure. And so because I think data is still pretty big right now, it's very lucrative. Data is everything. Like it's what marketers use to sell their products. It's like without data, it's like the foundation for a lot.
Yeah.
And so I think I studied business and I just somehow ended up there. And because of that, I like let my creative passions just like take a back seat. And I even like forgot about them completely for a time. And then like a lot of people during COVID, when I had extra time on my hands, I started revisiting my old passions and I got back into like making music and stuff.
Oh, okay. So, and you cannot blame that career because that's what brought you to Paris.
It is what brought me to Paris. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so like I wouldn't like, for sure, I wouldn't change anything. Well, I would change something. I wish I was able to do both at the same time. Like I wish I could have had a better balance where I was still working and giving time and effort to my creative projects while I was pursuing my more like corporate ones. Because I feel like I really just like forgot about them for a long time. My happiness is very tied to that. So like all of a sudden I realized I felt unhappy in life. And it took me a little while to learn, it's because I'm not like creating or doing what I enjoy doing anymore.
Let's talk about this move to Paris. Like, how did that happen? When did the company offer you this position? Did you give like a lot of thought or was like a no-brainer? Because I also know that it happens during the pandemic. It was not so easy to like travel, right?
Yeah, well, all the decisions were made before the pandemic happened. So like, because it's a long process. Like I think it took a year to like get all of the paperwork and stuff settled, like the visa stuff and like the officiating the move. And what's crazy is that I got the offer to move to Paris because they were trying to keep me. I was getting headhunted for one of our clients. One of our clients was trying to steal me. And so they were like, no, don't leave. Stay with us. We'll give you the opportunity to move to an office of your choice. And so I was like, oh, cool. Paris.
Nice.
And then it was like a year process to get all of like the visa stuff settled. And the week that I was moving out of my apartment, I already had everything packed. My lease was ending. I was ready to leave and go move to Paris. I think like 3 days before my flight, they closed the borders between the US and Europe. And so I was like, like everybody, maybe this will last like 2 weeks. I'll just buy a ticket home to California and chill at my parents' house. And 2 weeks turned into like 6 months. And then I eventually had to like I broke in through the UK because my company wasn't being very helpful in like trying to help me move to Europe. I mean, I guess their hands were tied. There wasn't a ton they could do during COVID, but I ended up finding a loophole. The borders weren't closed between the UK and the US, and the borders also weren't closed between the UK and Europe. So I snuck in through London. Ended up spending like 3 months in London. And the final thing that I needed to start my job in France is like, even though my visa had been approved, I needed it stuck in my passport. And the issue was that all the French embassies in the US closed during COVID. So I couldn't get like the actual visa put in my passport. So I went to London and I talked my way into getting that visa because I went to the French consulate in London and I was like, look, I'm an American. I know you can only do this for like UK citizens, but I can't start my job in France until I have a French visa in my passport. So like, is there any way you can process this visa for me and put it in? And they were like, okay, fine, give us a month. And that's what happened. And so I was able to get my visa in London as an American and move to Paris.
That was kind of like an adventure, right? To finally get to Paris. But so you had like a year to process this move. So it was like your answer was like a no-brainer. I want to go to Paris. You didn't even think about it. Like, I want to go, like you have a job. So what's the worst thing that can happen? You get back.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because at the time, I didn't speak great French. And I was like, when am I ever going to get this opportunity for a company to pay for me to go, to sponsor me with a visa, despite the fact that I don't speak perfect French? I was hesitant because I loved New York and I felt like at that point I had only been living in New York for 2.5 years and I wasn't ready to leave yet. I felt like I had barely experienced the city.
Yeah.
I was hesitant, but I was like, I'm not going to get this opportunity again. So if I decide I don't like it, I can always go back to New York later. So I just took the opportunity, came here and ended up staying way longer than I thought I would. Now I've been here for 5 years.
So you're not scared, right? To move to Paris?
No, I think one thing that like a lot of people close to me will say is that I'm not really scared to make choices. I don't know if impulsive is the right word, but like when an opportunity presents itself, I usually just take the opportunity and think about it after. I'm not someone who like meditates on it a lot before. I'm more so, I'll just jump and hopefully there's something there that will catch me. Okay. That's kind of my approach to life.
It's working.
Sometimes.
So far, right? And I know that you're now married. You got married back in July to a French guy. You're in love.
Very much.
And I've had other guests with love stories abroad. So I would love to hear more about your story and what kind of things made you realize he was the one. And I'm also curious to know if the cultural differences were like a barrier or a bond.
Oh my God, where do I even begin? Well, we met on an app, the very modern love story.
The Bumble, right?
Yeah, we met on Bumble.
So I have something really funny to share because I was going through your content and then I saw the pictures for Bumble. And yesterday I was waiting for a friend in a corner and I look up and I saw like a big billboard from that same campaign. You are not there, but I was like, oh my God, it's like the same campaign they were part of with other couples. And I was like, this is such a coincidence because until that point, I've never seen that campaign.
Yes,
before.
No, it was a big one. Like we were on billboards, a lot of them in Paris. And then I even got some friends who sent me billboards of us in Shoreditch in London. I didn't know it was going to be in all these places, so that was really exciting. But we met on Bumble, and we both lived in Batignolles, which is like, it's like actually the young family neighborhood of Paris. Like it's in the 17th, which is, it's called like the stroller capital of Paris because like everyone has a baby and a stroller here. And so we went on our first date, we got coffee, and it turned into like a 6-hour walk around Paris. Wow. Like we were just... Maybe I'm exaggerating. The date might have been 6 hours, but we walked far. We walked from Batignolles all the way to Invalides, which is like straight down at the bottom of Paris and then back up. And we had so much fun on our coffee walk date that we ended up getting dinner together after. I liked how Thomas is very open-minded. Like not to hate on French culture, because there's a lot of things I love about it, but I do think that sometimes they can be a bit like closed-minded to ways that are not their own. Like they have a very strict view on how the world is supposed to be, and I think there's a beauty to that. But at the same time, a lot of times they don't like when things are done differently or like unorthodox in fashion. Thomas was not like that. Like I knew from right when we met that he was very like open and more curious about like how I was different rather than like confused that I wasn't like his typical French girls. And I remember the first question that I asked him, we were sitting on like this grassy field mid-walk, and I was like, oh, like where do you see yourself living? Because it's kind of important to me when I was dating to see like, okay, like would they ever be open to like moving back to the US or moving elsewhere abroad? And he was like, I don't know, that depends on like where my future wife wants to live. And I thought that answer was like so candid for someone who I had just met. And so sweet. Yeah, so as soon as he said that, I was like, oh, well, you're nice, I like you. And so we just kept dating, and then eventually it developed into this. And like maybe 8 months later, it was Thanksgiving, and I decided to take him with me to California for Thanksgiving. So
it
my
was
whole
very
family.
it was very easy since the
Yeah.
beginning. There was no questions, no doubts about him. And that's how it's supposed to be, right? I don't believe in like drama.
No,
You know?
no, very unproblematic. I guess there were some minor cultural hiccups, but nothing that was like, oh my God, we cannot be together. Like it was more just little clashes sometimes. Because like when we first started dating too, his English wasn't perfect. And my French, though I had already been living here for like 2 or 3 years when I met him. Or no, I've not that long, only 2, because we've been together for like 3.5 now. My French was like good, but like not perfect. So just because of miscommunication, sometimes like I think when you're speaking your second language, you're really direct without meaning to. Like you don't know how to sugarcoat or soften things. You kind of just say like flat out what you mean. And sometimes it can be interpreted as like harsh because
especially when you are like not that fluent in the language, right?
Exactly. So I think we had like miscommunications because of that. Like he'd be like, why are you mad at me? Or like, why are you being mean about this? And I'm like, I'm not. That's just the only way I know how to say it.
Good. And do you think that living abroad has changed what you look for in the relationships? Like this question that you said that you were asking, like, where do you see yourself living? Were you asking the guys back in New York that question?
Yeah, no, definitely not. That wasn't something that I brought up. But I think living abroad meant that I had to be with someone who was super open. Like I don't even think I could see myself with like a very stereotypical, like fully American guy anymore. Because like I've lived too many experiences that are different from my time in the US. For me, like I feel like my identity is split into a lot of pieces now. And I think I can only be with someone who understands what that feels like. And Thomas lived in Australia for a year. I didn't mention that bit, but like he's someone who I think what was a priority for me was that whoever I ended up with had to be multifaceted, understand what it meant like to be from different cultures or like to live in a different culture and whatnot.
How was your mindset when you first arrived in Paris? Were you planning to stay for a long time or no? Like when did you realize like, oh, well, I think I live here for good now, at least for now?
Yeah. No, I think I came with the mentality, like I said, I really didn't want to leave New York yet. So I came with the mentality that I would only stay here for like a year. And then there was no conscious decision on my part where I was like, I'm staying here now. It kind of, the years just kept passing and there was nothing to make me want to move. Like I very quickly found my bearings here. Like I found my friend group. I found everything that like I could need to be happy in life here. And so I never felt an urge to move again, like after that. So now I am homesick sometimes. Like I would, in an ideal world, I would love to split my time between California, the US, and France at least. But no, there was never like a conscious decision where I was like, oh, I'm staying in France forever now. It just kind of like life unfolded that way.
And California is so far away from France, right? Because
So
when I think
far.
about France, because as I mentioned before the interview, my sister lives there. And I love the fact that I'm in the East Coast because to go there is like 6 hours and a half.
Yeah.
To come here is a little bit longer, but we're so close. Like if she was living in Brazil, it was way longer. So
Yes. Yeah.
it's not the same thing. I
No, I know.
understand. So you briefly mentioned about your creative career, that you used to be a very creative kid and then you got the corporate world and you just had to stop doing that, and you kind of reconnect with that during the pandemic because you had more time. How did you start pursuing this as more like something serious, not something as a hobby like you're doing when you were a kid, because now it's your full career. And
Yeah,
I honestly, I don't know how you're doing so many things like writing songs, singing, and the content creation. And I know that you wrote a book or
I
about to
did. Yeah.
publish a book. Oh my, it's so many things in so many different creative fields. I guess like the music and the writing are very connected. I can
But so
see.
is the content creation. Like in my
Yeah.
eyes, it's very much just storytelling. And there's a lot of different media or like ways that you can tell stories. And so like whether it's through videos, songs, or books, it's kind of at the end of the day, I do think it's the same passion.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
like
for sure.
there's a thread that goes through all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's I also saw you mentioning that you feel guilty when you are writing, then you were like, oh, but I'm not creating content, or then you are
Yes.
creating content, you're not singing. But yeah, tell me how this all started, and when did you realize that that's something here, and you finally decided to pursue this full time? Because I know that since the beginning of the year, I think that you left your
I've been full time.
your
Yeah.
9 to 5. Yeah, your 9 to 5. Yes.
So I started, like I said, I started making music again and diving back into creativity during COVID, but I had never seen it as like a career. Like I was always thinking, okay, I'm just doing this as like a hobby on top of my job. What was really frustrating about music is, I guess it's any creative industry, no one sees your art if you don't have a platform. So like I was making all of this music. I didn't have any social media. So like I would make these songs, then just like release them. And then it was like an empty room. I think I was a bit jaded that I was like putting all this effort into, like, artists want their art to be seen or heard or appreciated. And it wasn't intentional, but I think maybe 2 years ago, I made like a video that it was my first ever viral video about my life in Paris. And it was just a TikTok, like just comparing my life to like Emily in Paris. It was before I had any following. Like I had
Oh, okay.
no followers. And I didn't expect it at all. Like it blew up, millions of views. And I was like, what? This is such a boring video. Like, why does anyone care about this? And then like I realized like I did it again and it like blew up again. And I was like, well, this is so weird. Like, and so like all of a sudden, I was like starting to build this little community on something that wasn't really related to what I usually do. Like at that time, I was really only focused on music. And so it felt like very disconnected that I had this account talking about life in Paris. But then one of the songs I wrote, for the first time ever, I made a video of a song and it went viral. And it was like, whoa, like thanks to this platform that I've been growing for something else, I've now like released music, which is what I've been doing this whole time. But now for the first time ever, it's like being listened to, like it's actually being received by people. And so I was like in awe at the power of like social media and what having a platform can do for creatives, like how it can shine like a light on your projects. So then for the first time ever, I made a profit off of a song. I had never made money off of art before. And that was just like crazy to me. And then so on top of that, as like my community grew, I started working more with like brands and doing collaborations. And for the first time, again, I was like able to make money off of like creating things. And then eventually it just got to a point where I was like, well, if I can make money creating things, like why do I need to keep doing the corporate stuff? Like I can just put all of my effort into like creating things and trying to make that work out instead. And so I think that's essentially what led to my decision to leave at the end of last year.
And was this decision to leave a jump, or you really thought about it?
I think there were months where I was feeling really burnt out because I was trying to juggle consulting, which is a very intense career, on top of like making videos, on top of making music. And I was like, something has to give. Like I can't do everything or I'm just going to be like really, really tired. Yeah, maybe it was like a couple months in the making. I was like, I want to try this. And I think what's great about France is they have a lot of really cool social programs for like entrepreneurs or people who want to like try something new. They'll support you financially too if you want to launch a project, where the US doesn't really do stuff like that. Like the government is like willing to, and you also have like universal health care here. So like there were a lot of things I didn't have to worry about because I'm in France, where if I was still in the US, I probably wouldn't have taken such like a scary jump because I wouldn't have had like all of these support systems in place if it went badly.
Yeah, I think like the health insurance thing, it's a big factor if you compare Europe to the US, because if you don't have like a formal job in the US, how can you have health insurance without spending like tons of money? It's so sad, actually. I don't like that because I'm from Brazil and we also have universal health care. Not that it works completely fine, but we have is an option. So. Okay, yeah. I actually had another question, but you already answered, like you balancing this side of your creative career and having a 9-to-5 job. I guess you're not doing that until the pandemic, right? But where do you get your inspiration from these days, like for your writing, for your songs, and even for your videos on social media? Because it's very easy to get burned out.
Wow, inspiration, I don't know. It kind of comes from everywhere. I think creativity is a muscle, and the more you use it, the stronger it gets. And so like ideas breed more ideas. Like the more you think about creating something, it's going to give you an idea for something else. Like they're kind of all, it's like a web that just keeps growing and growing. I would say my inspiration usually comes from like emotions in my own life. Like I recently wrote a song that I'm recording right now. And it was my experience in like the publishing industry, because writing is new to me. I've been writing a book for 2 years and I'm now trying to traditionally publish it. And I'm learning how hard the literary publishing world is.
Everything is so hard, right? Everything is so hard.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever tried to publish a book, but there are so many obstacles and like gatekeepers in this industry. And so I was feeling so down about it, about like getting rejection after rejection. Like that emotion I kind of just wanted to channel, and then I put that into a song, and that's like my outlet for whenever I'm like dealing with something that's like hard emotionally. That's usually my outlet, creating something, writing something, making music. Yeah, it comes from usually hardships that I go through, my relationships, travels. Definitely travels help a lot too.
And you never studied something in this field, right? You went to college for the data thing, the business, but you never, you were just doing things by your own all this time when you're a kid as well.
When I was a kid, we did acting classes because we did do a lot of like commercial work growing up. I think I started acting when I was like 12. And so from that age, I also did theater growing up. So like I had like outlets where I was being creative. What else? I took a writing class as soon as I finished at BCG, which was my last company. I did a semester of like writing class from this online school in London. So I have taken lessons. And then also my whole life growing up, I took piano and voice lessons from this Russian teacher since I was like 6 to 18.
That's so cool. And do you think that living in Paris, like living abroad, accelerated your creative evolution? In what ways?
So for the first time ever, I busked. Do you know what busking is?
No.
It's when you play music in the street, like unsolicited. You kind of just like bring your guitar and your speaker and your mic, and then you just start playing music. And I think that's something that when I was in the US, I was always too scared to do it because I think it was like that fear of judgment. But as soon as I moved to Paris, all of a sudden I was like, I barely speak French. Nobody here knows me. And I felt like separated from like the fear of judgment as soon as I came here. So I started doing things that were much more daring than I would have ever done in the US. And one of those was playing music in the street.
How was it?
It was scary at first. It was really scary. You don't know, no one's asking you to play. You're kind of just like forcing your music on them. But I think it helped me meet a lot of other musicians in Paris. And so like the more people that I met in the creative world, the more I felt like it validated like my own desires to like create and make art.
What do you love about your life in Paris now? What is different from life in New York City or even life in California?
I think I had mentioned how the international friend group that I made here is like really unique because I think it's hard to be a part of that in New York since I was American. So of course I wasn't going to be like invited into this like close-knit community. But I guess the closest friendships I've made have been in Paris because there's a lot of rite of passages to make it here. There's a lot of steps that you have to go through, a lot of like hardships, like leaving your family behind. You're probably moving far away from them. All of the administrative paperwork, all of like the visa nonsense. And so I think when you go through all of those things and you meet other people who have gone through all of those things and you go through more hard things together just because you're living abroad and you miss your family, it forms like really deep relationships with people that's probably my favorite part of living in Paris.
And do you feel you are a different person now, like 4 or 5 years after you moved abroad? And what do you think that has changed in the person that you are?
Oh, it's changed a lot. I mean, like we said, like our experiences are what shape us. So it's hard to pinpoint one specific way it's changed me. But I guess
maybe something that you do today or a way that you think today.
This is like a bit of like a superficial example that I can think of, but I like the French approach to style and fashion. I think the American approach is much more hopping on trends and trying to have the latest and greatest. Like even in terms of an iPhone, a lot of French people will have an iPhone model from like 6 years, 5 years ago. In the US, that's not really a thing. Like everyone always wants the newest iPhone, the newest this, the latest. Like there is definitely a really big overconsumption mentality in the US. We love to consume. We have holidays for consuming. Halloween and Valentine's Day, there are holidays around buying things, buying gifts. And so I think France doesn't share that mentality. They're much more conservative when it comes to like spending frivolously or like chasing after trends. And they want things that are like longer lasting. And so like that applies to like how they dress. Like they have less clothes here. They're more focused on like timeless pieces, less about trends. They don't mind having an old iPhone. They try to like limit their footprint a bit more than we do in the US. And I think, I definitely look back and my culture, my original culture a bit differently because of that.
I don't think that's superficial, actually, what you said about
Really?
the consumerism. No, I think it's a very interesting point. And I have a question that's related to that, because people often compare the values and the lifestyle in the U.S. with the ones in European countries in general, because we know that life in the U.S. can be a lot about money and hustling, and in Europe it seems to be more about having quality of life, having more time. You just mentioned that you see that. I was going to ask you that, but when we talk about these narratives about life in Europe, what do you think it's fake? Because there is a lot of like, oh, so romantic to live in Europe. It's perfect. Life is perfect. And we know that life is not perfect in any place in the world. It's better for some people, better for other people. But let's say that we have those videos on the internet and you see that, or someone having an opinion and you think, that's not true, you know? What is the kind of thing that pisses you off about the life in Europe?
So one thing, I don't know if there's like an opinion, like a popular stereotype on this, but one thing that's really rubbed me the wrong way about Europe is like it's the opposite of the American mentality to dream big. Like I think the American dream, it's very much, it might not exist, but it's very much believed by Americans. Like Americans really do believe that like if you work really hard, you can have these crazy outlandish dreams, but there's a possibility, there is a world or a scenario where you can make them happen, where Europeans are so safe. I think like my creative journey into like leaving corporate, that is very American of me. It's not European of me, because like Europeans are much more in the realm of like, don't do anything don't take any risks. Like they're not really risk takers. They like to stay, or at least French, they like to stay in what's safe. That doesn't answer your question, but that's one thing I don't love about the European mentality is that they're very closed when it comes to taking risks. And having like really out there dreams.
And do you believe in the American dream?
I do, for sure. I mean, like I've seen it. Like my own mom like grew up in a country that isn't in the best situation. And all of her and her siblings have degrees. All of them have great jobs and careers. And all of them are happy. Like they all were able to kind of live this life of opportunity. Because my mom had that, there was never any hesitation from her to like push me to to go after what I wanted. Like what I was saying about that pressure to like have the safe route, a lot of it was coming from myself, actually. A lot of it was like me like feeling like I need to be a good example. It was never coming from my mom. My mom has become very American in the sense where she was like, go do the craziest thing you could do. Like go chase after every dream you want. I think it was a hard shift because now that I'm married to a French man, I hang out a lot with his parents who are French, and they're very traditional in their mentality too. I think they get really confused when they see what I'm doing on social media. Like when I tried to explain to them that I quit my job to like make videos and stuff, they were like, why would you do that? That's like so silly.
I was gonna ask you if your family was supportive of your creative things
Super
when you were a
supportive.
kid, but it sounds obvious because you're doing so many things like the acting classes, the piano classes, and you cannot do that if your family was not supporting you.
No, and I think all of the credit goes to my mom because like a lot of moms who have kids who like work in the entertainment industry, she was the one who would drive us to LA, which is like a 6-hour drive to go to like auditions for stuff. She's the one who drove us to all of our acting lessons. She's the one who drove us to all of our auditions, all of our castings. And every time I wanted to try something, she was always like, yes, okay, tell me when you want to do it and we'll sign you up. Like the piano lessons came from me and she signed me up. The singing lessons came like from an idea from me and she signed me up. She was always like enabling me to go after stuff.
The study abroad came from you?
Of course. Is that surprising?
No, not at all. Your values, do you think they changed after you moved abroad?
No, I don't think so. I think my values have stayed pretty similar. It's if anything, it's like solidified them. Like everything that I was saying about how there's a lot of things that are not great about American culture, but there's a lot of like beautiful things about it too. And I think it's a country of immigrants. At least it started that way. And I think the immigrant mentality is just so strong and like you can do anything that you set your mind to and still like hardworking. Coming back to Europe, which is a very traditional mentality, not at all that. Like there's not a lot of, there are immigrants in Europe, but like a lot of the French people I see are like French people who their great-grandparents were French and whatever was French. And it's just a different school of thought. And seeing their school of thought makes me appreciate the one that I came from. Like I'm very grateful to have come from a place where like work hard and dream big and you can get whatever you want.
That's nice. And I like this place that you can occupy as an immigrant, like bringing something from your country to another place and using that. I love that. We were talking about being creative, right? And you talk about your inspiration, but like being an entrepreneur in this field, it's not easy. And do you self-doubt yourself? And what kind of conversations you have with yourself when you are in this like quote unquote low period?
This has been probably, without exaggerating, like one of the hardest years of my life. At an emotional level, I feel like pushed to like my emotional limits constantly because I thought that corporate was stressful. Like I thought that the job that I was leaving was stressful, and now that I'm pursuing my passions, it's going to feel like great because it's like what I'm meant to be doing, but that's not at all the case. I think there's even more pressure because all of a sudden your life and your work fuse. Like they're the same thing. Like, and everything is on my shoulders. Like my success is determined by like what I put out into the world. And it's a very scary lifestyle to like have to depend completely on yourself rather than a company and a salary. And so, I have a lot of moments of doubt where I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Like I was comfortable. I was so comfortable having like a salary. Like I I could have just stayed in that lifestyle. And so, yeah, for sure, I have moments where I'm like, I'm not good enough. Like, there's no way I can ever like release a book and like have it be read by other people. There's no way that I can make money on social media. There's no way that anyone will ever listen to music that I wrote. And I think what gets me through it is I still don't know if it'll work out. But I think Thomas and my friends are like really supportive of like having my back and like encouraging me, being like, stop it, like don't let like the doubt overcome you. Just like stay positive and keep manifesting, and eventually things will work out. Like I think if you keep Murphy's Law, if you like keep pushing, eventually it has to happen.
Yeah. And for other women listening that are afraid of jumping, what do you just say?
The easiest thing would just, I guess, just cover your eyes and jump. I guess that's probably not sound advice for anyone. It's great to think about things, but I think one advice that I really like is that, I don't remember who said this, but the people who become entrepreneurs, the people who become successful are not the smartest people. It's the people who, you don't have to be super brilliant to build your own project from scratch. It's really just whether you do it or not. That's like what determines whether you're going to be successful. Do you sit and think about it and never make it happen? Or do you actually just go and do it? You could do a bad job, but eventually, like at least you did it. And eventually it will work out.
I think this is the universe send me a message, because I interviewed another girl yesterday and she mentioned the exactly same thing, the exactly same quote. Yeah, she was like, people that are successful, they are not the smartest ones just because they try enough to make it happen. And now you were saying the same thing. And I was like, oh my God. And I didn't ask her the same exact question.
Wow, we just both fell upon that same answer.
Yeah. And my last question is, what does home mean to you now?
It's the people, for sure. I think everyone probably says that, but because my home is in a lot of places, but it's just the people that I feel closest, safest with, the people that make me feel like I'm most myself is where my home is.
So tell people where they can find you. And just so you know, I'm going to include all the links in the description. So don't worry about like spelling.
Okay. You can find me on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube under I am Soldana. And I've also recently launched Soldana Books, which are my accounts dedicated to all things books.
I saw that. Yeah. Oh my God.
And I'm streaming on every streaming platform. So like Spotify, Apple Music, whatever, under Soldana.
You keep yourself very, very busy. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing your story. And I hope this can inspire other women out there to pursue their dreams and jump.
Yes. Thank you so much for your time and for all these wonderful questions that really got me thinking.
I'm glad. Okay, guys. So if you like this conversation, please reach out to Nina on her socials. Send me a message as well. And we'll talk again soon. Bye. I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I love this conversation with Nina. She has such a nice energy, and I'm linking all her socials and links and pages in the description below, so check it out. Other than that, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you don't want to miss any new episodes, you should definitely sign up for our newsletter. I'm linking everything on the description below. If you are on Spotify, please don't forget to rate us and follow us there. It really, really means a lot. Other than that, thank you so much for being here. Until next time, bye.